evening from Swansea, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Today, it's Mailbag Monday, where we answer your questions that you have submitted via the Instagram story. Now, as you can probably slightly tell, my voice is a little bit off today, and there's currently a bit of a cold going around Wrestling Republic as Coby has got it too. So all the best to Coby. We hope he gets better very soon and isn't back on the podcast later on this week. But joining me today to discuss all of your questions as well as previewing tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw, returning from his second wedding in 3 weeks and the second time being best man in 3 weeks, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. And speaking of colds, I don't know how you guys gave me this one from all the way across the pond, but I've got one a little bit myself. Still recovering. It was a heck of a weekend. I got a shout out, Andrew and Taylor Guernsey. Congrats, guys. Love you guys. And they're on a flight to Maui right now for their honeymoon, so enjoy. But I'm stoked to be back, and let's get right into it.
Absolutely. We've got a great show for you guys today, and I'm glad you enjoyed the wedding, Clark. But I don't know how on earth, I didn't know a new feature of StreamYard was that colds can be transmitted through it. But talking about somebody who I at least think has avoided the cold so far, David Sheldon's joining us. How are you today, David?
I am good. Thank you very much for having me once again for my third straight day. I'm hoping nobody's sick of me yet because I'm on tomorrow as well, so it'll be 4 straight days. Very excited for Mailbag Monday today. I have avoided the cold, so we are all good for the time being. Sending my best wishes to Coby. Hope he gets well soon. Let's get at it.
Oh, StreamYard, this new update, I can't believe it. I'm only joking. We're going to get right into things and let's talk Monday Night Raw, which of course is taking place tonight. And the big headline for tonight's episode is that Seth Rollins will be defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Damian Priest in what was originally an open challenge. Damian Priest has accepted the challenge, and we're going to see those two go at it tonight. Now, originally I thought this, I even spoke about it on the podcast. We thought that, this would be perhaps a pay-per-view match, perhaps a match at the Money in the Bank. Nope, they're giving it away on Raw. And listen, I'm not going to complain about a World Heavyweight Championship defense on Raw at all. Could it have been saved for a pay-per-view? Probably. But still, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. But my main question is, why did Priest take the pinfall last week in Rollins and Styles versus Priest and Balor if this was going to happen this week? Little bit of a weird one there. But I think my prediction for this is obvious, and that is Seth Rollins winning and retaining the championship in his first match. But Clark, what is your predictions for this one, and how do you feel about it?
I think without question, Seth Rollins retains in this one. It makes no sense to put the belt on Priest right away after Seth's your inaugural champion. He's got to have a bit of a run here. I actually think it's kind of a shame. I think Priest has been a bit of a standout in Judgment Day, and it's kind of a shame that he's getting thrown to the wolf here. And it can halt some momentum, at least in the singles division. At worst, maybe he's in the Intercontinental title picture with Gunther. I don't know that you could turn him babyface quick enough, but Damian Priest, I feel like, has been underused for a while. It's awesome to see him get a world title shot, but it's a shame that it's almost a guaranteed stomp pin victory.
Yeah, no, you're basically bang on there, Clark. It very much does feel like that. It's just kind of a guaranteed loss for Priest. But I am excited for this match. We've got Anthony Manzano in the comments over on YouTube saying that for him, they brought back the World Heavyweight Championship so they can have a major championship defended every night on television. And you could be right there. I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't think it's going to be a weekly occurrence. I think it is, more so just going to be a champion will be there every week at least. Unlike Roman Reigns, I'm going to be defending at every pay-per-view at the very least, with the occasional TV defense. And I think that is what we will be seeing today. And we've also got Shard in the comments saying, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too, Shard. It's in the UK, it's evening over here in it. I spoke about it yesterday on the show. It's hot here, it really is. And in the UK, we're just not used to the heat. But now let's talk about a Money in the Bank qualifier, which will be taking place on tonight's episode of Raw. And that is Zoe Stark will be taking on Natalya. And Natalya has kind of adapted this role, on the roster at this point, where she's kind of just there to put over talent, to be a good hand, essentially. That's what, the good old saying is in wrestling. And Zoe Stark has to be the obvious choice in this one, because you don't want her to seem like Trish's sidekick. The pairing with Zoe Stark and Trish, I think, could be amazing for Zoe, but you've got to make sure that Zoe doesn't just feel like a sidekick. So for that reason, I'm saying Zoe Stark needs to get the win tonight and qualify for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. But what do you think, David?
I completely agree. I think Zoe Stark will win this, and very handily. I really like the Zoe and Trish pair, and I think it could be the best thing they could do for Zoe, is to give her that veteran sort of mentor. I'm a little bit disappointed that this is the match they're going with for a qualifier. It'll be nice to see. I think Zoe will win easily. Nobody buys Natalya's going to Money in the Bank. I'm sorry, she's just got beaten in a minute by Rhea Ripley. She's been, she was a filler title defense. I feel like Zoe could have used a competitive match, as in a match where I'm sure it'll be a competitive match, but a match in which both participants have a shot of winning, because I just think it makes these matches more exciting.
I agree with the more exciting thing. No worries. I agree with what he was kind of saying about it. Makes it more exciting if they're more competitive. 100%. I think that's where he was going with this, and I'm on the same page. And I know the next topic, Ben, I don't want to get ahead of myself. David, are you back?
I'm back.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Let's head back to David.
I'm not sure where I got to before I cut off, so I'll just say that it's a shame that some of the Money in the Bank qualifiers are more competitive than this one, it is a shame that this is so obvious. I would have liked to see Zoe in a more competitive match, but Zoe will win. It'll be a nice thing for her. I think she'll win comfortably. I think she'll win dominantly, and I fear the crowd won't care, because they haven't cared about it before. I'm hoping Trish has changed that, because Zoe's really good. So I think it'll be a nice, easy win for her, and I'm excited to see what she can do with Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I agree completely with you there, David. This probably will be an obvious one. At least I kind of hope it will. Because if after, Natalya got squashed at Night of Champions, if she ends up beating Zoe Stark, that would not be great. But yes, now let's move on to the next and final talking point from Monday Night Raw before we move on to answer your questions for Mailbag Monday. And that is Becky Lynch will be taking on Sonya Deville in a Money in the Bank qualifying match in the women's division. And I mean, this is another one which is just very obvious. It really is. This is actually a lot more obvious than the last one, especially if Zoe Starks wins. Because if Zoe Starks wins, it's safe to presume that both her and Becky will be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. And that's how they're going to continue the Starks and Trish versus Becky feud. And then I think at SummerSlam we'll be getting Trish and Zoe Stark against Lita and Becky Lynch. But yeah, for Money in the Bank, I certainly see Becky being in this match, because it's it's in London, and there'll be a lot of Irish fans flying over from Ireland for this, right? It's only a couple of hours away, not even a couple of hours flight, like a half an hour flight from where Becky used to live. So I think certainly there'll be a lot of Becky Lynch supporters in the crowd, and it's a no-brainer for her to be on this card. But Clark, what do you think? Could you think there'd maybe be a little bit of a swerve there?
I was going to say, please don't ask me my prediction, because this one's more obvious than the first one. I mean, Becky Lynch by whatever she wants. Manhandle slam, disarmer, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. Poor Sonya Deville. That's really just unfair. I mean, she was so over as the authority figure in a sticky situation with what was going on in her personal life after the robbery and the stalker situation and everything. She did an amazing job with that, and I think she's underrated in the ring. Similar to Damian Priest, feels a little unfair. It'd be great if, for some reason, Sonya made us believe for a half a second she might pull off an upset. But at the end of the day, this is Becky Lynch via something. Submission, pinfall, really doesn't matter, but it'll be pretty academic.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of directions you can go having Sonya get in a bunch of offense on Becky right now. I mean, I might think this is a bigger squash than Zoe and Natalya. I think Natalya is there to actually work. Well, David's right on. Clearly, she's not going over, and she got squashed by Ripley. I think Natalya might be there to do a little bit longer TV match. I think this might be the shortest match of the night, which is my biggest fear, because I think that's unfair to Deville. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at.
Yeah. No, that is a very solid point there, Clark. I mean, Sonya Deville is great. This gimmick, this authority gimmick at the start, it was super over, but it's not kind of gotten stale. It has gotten stale. And at this point, they need to repackage or just do something else. Because, I mean, her and Chelsea Green, they're decent together, but still, it's just the authority gimmick. Her and Adam Pearce, it just feels so stale to me. So I'm not overly interested in that, in all honesty. But we've got quite a few comments here over on YouTube. Thank you guys for those comments. And firstly, we've got Shard, who thinks the in-ring wise, Natalya versus Zoe Stark will be great. And then we got Anthony Manzano, who's saying that honestly he is not that excited for them bringing back Money in the Bank. It's the last time they've had this gimmick. It was pointless. And I mean, that's true. I mean, it is true. It's been dealt with badly the last few years. It is Triple H's first Money in the Bank, and I expect he'll want to do something, good with it. Also, the fact that it's in London is going to be a huge show. I'm hoping they don't botch it this time. And I'm also hoping we don't see, despite the fact I'm going to be at Money in the Bank, so I've got a bit of bias, wanting to see cash in. In reality, I hope we don't see either briefcases cashed in at Money in the Bank, or even the week of Money in the Bank. I hope they both, hold the briefcases for a little bit of a while, and there's more story involved this year. Bailey in the comments is saying the men's Money in the Bank match is looking great so far, and LA Knight would be a more credible winner than Theory was last year. Well, over on the Wrestling Republic Instagram page, we did a poll asking fans if they thought LA Knight should win Money in the Bank, and 82% of them said yes. So it's clear the fans want LA Knight to get that victory. But now let's go and let's answer your questions for Mailbag Monday. So here I am getting up the questions, which of course are submitted via the Instagram stories each week. So if you're not following us over on Instagram at Wrestling Republic, make sure you do. And we answer your questions every Monday, unless it's a pay-per-view week, of course. But the first one we've got here is from at him284747, who is asking, who do you think or want who do you want or think should win this year's G1 Climax over in New Japan Pro Wrestling? This happened, of course, the list of names came out a couple of days ago now, and it's been confirmed that there will be 4 blocks this year, which, of course, they did last year. I wasn't a fan of it last year. However, this year, slight spin, it's 32 names, so it's 8 people per block. I don't take that as much as 7. And I just hope they kind of go back to the, 1 block per day format, as that is a lot better. But I'll quickly read off the 32 names. Kazuchika Okada, Tetsuya Naito, Sanada, Will Ospreay, Hiroshi Tanahashi, David Finlay, Shuta Umino, Shingo Takagi, Tomohiro Ishii, Tamatonga, Tangaloa, Hikuleo, Hiroku Goto, Yoshihashi, Toru Yano, Kenta, Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, Eddie Kingston, ELP, Ren Narita making his G1 debut, Evil, Chase Owens, Jeff Cobb, Great Okan, Aaron Henare, Gabriel Kidd, Alex Coughlin, Shane Haste, Mikey Nicholas, and Yota Tsuji, who of course had a brilliant match against Sanada a couple of days ago, which really showed, it really proved to me based on that one match that, hang on, this guy could be the real deal in a very short amount of time. And then, of course, the forbidden door is open in terms of not AEW and New Japan, because, of course, that's open for Eddie Kingston, but it's open between Noah and New Japan, as Kaito Kiyomiya will be in the match and will be in the tournament, and that is certainly one I'm excited for. New Japan, for me, the past 2 years, right? And I've watched New Japan every event pretty much since 2014. I've not been able to watch it the last year or so because it got so stale. However, the last few months, they've really started to change it up a little bit. And they've thrown, they're starting to develop new talent a little bit more, throw them in at the deep end like they did with Okada a decade ago. And we saw it with Yota Tsuji a few days ago at the Minion. I think we're going to see it with Shooter and Ren Narita as well. I'm excited. And Gabriel Kidd as well. Don't sleep on him. And Alex Coughlin as well. There's quite a few names in this tournament that I'm like, they're really fresh and I'm excited to see, right? So while this might not seem as stacked as some years prior, I'm really excited for this tournament. Now, in terms of who do I think will win? Now, truthfully, this is a difficult one to answer because, like I've said, I've been very casual watching it the last 18 months, the New Japan product, because I just haven't been enjoying it. It's starting to feel a lot fresher now, and I'm so happy about that. But in terms of me predicting who will actually win, I do have a little bit of a feeling it could be a bit of a shock one this year. Of course, Sanada's currently the belt, so I don't think at Wrestle Kingdom at the Tokyo Dome it would be like Sanada versus Shota Umino or anybody like that, because I don't think Sanada's a big enough of a drawing name there yet. But who's to say that Sanada won't lose the title before then? So it's a really difficult one. You got Okada holding the never open weight. Same with Ishii as well. It's a really difficult tournament to predict. But if you're going to ask me for one name, that name for me, I'm going to go for Tsuji. I am. I'm going to go for a wild card and a bit of a shout, an odd shout there, and go to Tsuji. What about you, though, David? Because I know you watch New Japan probably a lot more than I do these days.
There's so many people.
Yeah.
So many names. Right. So I'm going off the basis that Sanada will still be champion by the time of Wrestle Kingdom next year. So I've made up a little list because there are so many names. You can never count out Okada, Tanahashi, Ospreay, your typical run of kind of top name talents. I think that'll be a bit uninteresting. I don't want to see Okada there again. Like that's the problem we talked about with it getting stale. So the names that I came up with were the other members of LIJ. We've just seen Yota Tsuji kind of be adopted by Los Ingobernables around Dominion time. He didn't win. So you're looking at Tetsuya Naito and you're looking at Shingo Takagi, who are the other two members of that stable in the tournament, trying to maybe do what Tsuji couldn't, and the older kind of generation teaching the young blood a lesson. You could have Yota Tsuji again. I'd be up for that. I think Yota Tsuji is their future star that they are building quite heavily. I also have the name David Finlay in there, which would be completely out there, but there's been a lot of criticism around the new Bullet Club. A lot of the names in there. It doesn't feel at the moment like the big deal that Bullet Clubs of old have felt like. And I feel like if you really want to push Bullet Club back to that thing, David Finlay, I think, is terrific. And I think, although I don't think he will win, I think there's always an outside shout that if he doesn't win the tournament, he'll at least have a really good showing to try and get that stable over. So, I mean, there are loads of people it could be. I can tell you more people that it won't be. But among those top group of names until we get closer to the G1. I know it's not far away now, but you know what I mean. Until we kind of the tournament starts and you see where they're going, it becomes easier to predict because a 32-man tournament, it could go whatever way they want, really. I'm really excited for this year's G1 though, because I think that it's a stacked thing. The problem with the G1 can be is that you can get a bit burned out when there's just so much wrestling. But I mean, with the talent involved, there's going to be 5-star matches. It's going to be a great tournament. My pick, if I had to pick a name, I'm going to pick Shingo Takagi. Because again, LIJ, we've seen Naito wrestle Sana this year. So I'm going to go with Takagi, also because I think Takagi is underused. But more realistically, probably an Okada or an Ospreay or a Tanahashi, because they are your, in case of panic, in break glass options. So I feel like they're the more likely options. But I'm gonna go Takagi for something different, or David Finlay.
Oh, that is some great shouts there. I mean, personally, I do see Okada being in the main event just from a business perspective. Obviously, he's a big draw for them there, but it's who else could it be? And I just don't know if I can see Okada winning the G1. So I do get a slight feeling that Okada will win the title on the way there. Now, you mentioned Bullet Club, this new Bullet Club, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not, but the thing is, at the Dominion, with the new names added, I'm not going to completely spoil it for those of you guys who haven't seen it, but it's starting to feel, more shape around David Finlay now, a new era, and it's starting to be a bit more clear, and I like that. I think you should fully kick out House of Torture and Kenta, to be honest, and just build it around David Finlay's guys, and I think that's how to rebuild Bullet Club from the ground up without all these names in it. But I've got quite a few comments here. Again, we got Bailey saying Ishii deserves the world title, and he's saying the G1 is stacked this year. But I mean,
you good?
And yeah, I'm all good.
I was just making sure.
This summer cough, it's not fun. It really isn't.
I hear you.
But and Anthony Manzano is asking us, are you guys that Shibata, are you surprised that Shibata and Takeshita are not in the G1? I'm really not surprised Takeshita isn't. I mean, then again, the Forbidden Door is fully open in Japan at this point, so I mean, that's possible. But he's got a lot going on in AEW right now. As for Shibata, he's not allowed to wrestle there. He's not. They've not let him back, in terms of actually wrestling in Japan ever since he, called an audible and decided to turn his exhibition match into a real match. So I don't think we'll ever see Shibata wrestling in a New Japan ring again in Japan itself, if I'm being completely honest here. Maybe one retirement exhibition type match, but we'll have to wait and see. But I know that did not go down well there. But yes, now let's move on to the next topic. And this is while Clark was away at this wedding over the last few days. A big thing happened in professional wrestling, and that is that Roman Reigns now has a new Golden Universal Championship. So, Clark, give me your thoughts on the new belt.
So I looked at it, and it's funny because I was kind of unaware of the internet perception that we saw out of the gates. Because I was at the wedding, to be honest. I mean, my screen time was down 23% on Sunday. I was actually kind of proud of that, this on the cell phone report. But at the same time, I did get to see the new belt. I like it, I think, more than others would expect. I really do think it's cool. It looks very gold, and it looks extreme. My biggest question coming out of this has less to do with the title design itself and a lot more to do with the lineage. And how do we quantify the lineage of the WWE title, given that they've essentially now combined it with the Universal title? Because that seems wrong to me. Unless he's still carrying the WWE belt, I don't understand how you just combine them and how that affects the lineage. And that's where I get thrown off more than the design itself.
I mean, in fairness, right, they have combined the lineage several times with several other belts before.
Right.
It's nothing particularly new.
No, absolutely. I'm not saying it's the worst thing, but the WWE belt's lineage is so important. To combine it, I feel like with such a young title like the Universal title, as great as it's been so far, we've seen great rivalries. Balor being the inaugural champion. You kind of almost pull that off his resume though by combining the two. And there's just little things like that lineage wise. As kind of a fan of the history, that I'm not saying it like fully bothers me, but like I would like it to be just like a little bit of a cleaner explanation. That'd be my only complaint. The design I'm actually fine with. I really do not have an issue with it. And back to something we've talked about on shows before. I went to this wedding weekend. It's not brand specific, so it's helpful. Draft time next year, we don't have to worry about that, and we'll be fine. It's not brand specific. It's not blue. It's not red. It's gold. It's a championship, and I'm cool with it. Right? You know.
Yeah. No, I do. I completely agree with you there. We spoke about the women's titles, a lot quite regularly, and about how we feel like they should be more brand specific. Less brand specific. Sorry, instead of the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship, you have a World or Universal type thing. But at the same time, I also do get your point, especially as it's now called the Universal, or the WWE Universal. The undisputed WWE Universal Championship, I think is the full name. It's just overly complicated.
Yeah.
I've seen some people say on social media they think WWE over the next couple of years will perhaps just slowly get rid of the Universal out of the name.
WWE Championship would be, I think that'd be the smartest play. Go back to the classic WWE Championship.
Even if you want to put, undisputed,
I'm fine with.
Yes. That's still, I wouldn't have as much of an issue with that at all. But now let's move on. And let's move on to another question. I actually kind of made a little bit of a mistake there. And I'm so sorry to who it was. And that was at Thomas.blz who asked that question. Shout out, Thomas, one of our news writers here at Wrestling Republic. But now let's move on to the next question, which is from at 9th of December _ over on Instagram, and he is asking us, what do you think about Dominic Mysterio? He's young. He's very, very young. And yes, he's green at times. However, he has improved so much over the past year. He truly has. I didn't expect this much progress from him in a year. And I don't know, under this much pressure, how many people could have done as well as he has, being as green as he originally was. I have a lot of respect for him, and he plays this heel role so well, right? Deserves all the praise he gets in my eyes. And we've had a lot of issues with Judgment Day over, the months and years. But Judgment Day has truly helped Dominic Mysterio. For the others, maybe you can make some arguments, whatever. For Dominic Mysterio, you can't argue it. It's made his career so far, and it's done wonders and wonders for him. But David, I'll go to you first. What do you think about Dominic Mysterio?
I'm going to hold my hands up and say I was wrong, and be very happy in the fact that I was wrong. When I was there live, as I know you were at Clash at the Castle, when Dominic turned on Edge and Ray, and I thought it was a terrible decision, because I thought that Dominic was a charismaless vacuum clinging to his father. And I thought that turning him heel would cause him to drown in a very large ocean of a massive company with so many names, and that he'd be straight back to his father by the end of the year. I am so happy that I was proven wrong. I think Dominic is, as you said, it's made his career being with Judgment Day. He is a terrific heel. He gets terrific heel reactions, and people love to boo him, and that's what you want as a pro wrestling heel. I've seen this huge derogatory. There's this massive debate going on social media right now between who's the bigger heel, MJF or Dominic Mysterio, and it's a way for people on wrestling Twitter to just throw barbs at each other. But the fact is that they both come from the same place, which is they're both. You love to boo them both, and that I've seen people kind of criticize that and say that that it's just wrestling fans taking the mick by booing him. But they're still booing him, and I don't think they are taking the mick. I think it's that heat is genuine. But the fact of the matter is, if it becomes part of the game for fans to just boo Dom because it's fun to boo Dom, then he's doing his job properly. And I think he's great. I don't think I've seen there's hints of Money in the Bank. There's been hints of world title. I don't think we're there yet. I think WWE are building him well by having him win matches on television and having him go over. He did the program with Xavier Woods, to do those smaller programs, build up wins to make himself more credible. I think the other guys in the stable are more credible right now. But Dominic is hysterical. His reaction when Rhea beats Natalya is one of the funniest things I've seen. I think he's great, and I'm really, really happy for the guy, and I'm 100% happy to be proven wrong. As long as no more of his matches are sponsored by Cinnamon Toast Crunch, then we'll be absolutely fine.
Oh, that was funny. But yeah, I completely agree with you. He's great, but yeah, like you said, it's a bit too early for him to, be in contention for a major title or Money in the Bank even. I think that turning point will be when he beats his father. I think once he beats Rey Mysterio and earns the Mysterio name, I think that's when you can really push him into the main event scene, and he just does have a really bright future. I have that feeling about him now. I didn't before, but I do now, and I'm so happy about it. And just like you, David, I'm happy that I was proven wrong. But Clark, what about you? What are your thoughts on Dominic Mysterio?
What's your beef with Cinnamon Toast Crunch, David?
It's a blood feud. It's a blood feud, and there's a dancing Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
You be careful what you say about Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's the best cereal, and it's always been the best cereal. I loved everything you said and agreed with so much of it. Then you had to throw Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
I'm sure it's wonderful, but if they did Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels back in the day, sponsored by Frosties, then and had a dancing frosted flake, then I think we'd have the same problem.
Probably, except for that it's Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm totally, but no, but I agree with so much of what you said there. The only thing I'll add is that I feel like sometimes the Judgment Day has really only kind of benefited Dominic. I think Rhea Ripley's a superstar no matter what. In the MJF Dominic comparison, it's interesting. I love what you said about the loving to boo them. I think we want to boo MJF because he's so good at what he does. I think with Dominic, he's very booable and he's improved a ton, right? He's come a long ways, but comparing the two, MJF is the heel that's a step ahead. Dominic still at times feels like the heel that's a step behind. And that would be my only to draw the line in the sand between those two. MJF always feels like he's got the upper hand. You're worried that he's outsmarted the babyface you're rooting for, right? Whereas you're not necessarily that threat isn't at play as much with Dominic. That'd be my only caveat, but I agree with literally 99% of what you were saying, David. Like, absolutely. But anyway, let's keep it going.
Yes, absolutely. Let's now move on to the final question of the show. Actually, let's firstly acknowledge the comments over on YouTube. We got Bailey saying the Americans love Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yes, we do.
The amount of clips we've got of Clark trying to defend Cinnamon Toast Crunch is hilarious. Anthony Manzano thinks Dominic should cut his hair or trim it a little bit. He's looking too much like Eddie. But I kind of think that's the vibe he wants. He wants to seem like that.
Point. I think that's the point.
Long term, sure, but right now, keep that look. It's working. He's getting over. No need to change something when it's working. But the final question of the day comes from @the_and3maniac, who is asking us, what is in the current era of wrestling, what is your current dream match? And this is it's a great question, but it's really hard to answer. Dream matches in general are quite hard for me because I like to look at things from a storyline perspective. I like to look at it from one point to the next point rather than just saying, I think these two will be really good in the ring together. Because when we usually do that, especially in WWE, they end up kind of being disappointments because story is key. Story is above everything else. I've always said it. I always will go ahead and say that. But if we are just, talking about it like that, Balor versus McDonough is what I want to see. Trainee versus trainer. student versus teacher. That one would be truly fantastic. And I know we've seen it before. We saw it in NXT UK takeover a few years ago, but on the main roster with a good storyline behind it, that'd be amazing. Now, if we're talking purely in ring, we're getting Okada Danielson at Forbidden Door, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But another one I wanted to see for years is Kenny Omega and AJ Styles go at it. That's been my dream match for years now. But the big issue with that is I kind of think AJ is getting on a little bit now. And for that reason, if I could choose any match in wrestling now between two guys, those two guys would be Kenny Omega and Seth Rollins. Kenny Omega and Seth Rollins going at it, that would be absolute magic in my eyes. But Clark, what do you think? What is your wrestling dream match in this current era with wrestlers who are currently available?
I'm going to go completely out of left field here, and I'm not even going to go bell to bell acumen because I don't care. I'm going to go straight storyline driven and tell us an amazing story, and I want Maxwell Jacob Friedman against the tribal chief Roman Reigns. And I might even want it to be stable versus stable and somehow reform the bloodline and give MJF some lackeys and just see what they can do there, even if it's ultimate heel versus ultimate heel. Tell us a mafia story. Tell us about two mob bosses that just they're jealous of each other. They want to end the other one, take over. That there's a story there that would be amazing. I don't know how bell to bell it would be not the greatest, but story-wise, I think you could have it just be absolutely scorching. We saw Rock Hogan at WrestleMania 18, things like that, where it's bigger than just, heel versus babyface. And yeah, I'm going with Max versus Roman. Why not? Pick the two biggest world champions.
Wow, that is truly a big one, and I'd be excited for that. I mean, who would you like to put with MJF if you were to put him in your faction for the feud?
So I loved when he had the Pinnacle, and I know the Firm was kind of intended to be MJF's group. I might, with Max, put FTR back with him if that was available. This is fantasy booking, right? Fantasy world. So I don't think that's possible, but give him FTR to go up against the Usos. Spears back, his accountability buddy, would be delightful. And then I would like to see, why not just go with the Pinnacle? Give us Wardlow too. Against the Bloodline. Why not? Actually, I was about to say maybe Lance Archer or something. No, Wardlow versus Solo. Are you kidding me? That would be outstanding. Usos, FTR, MJF, Roman. It all lines up, and you could build a whole card around 3 matches like that.
It's true,
and it wouldn't take you long. Not with that level of talent. And so, if I'm picking based on the current era, that's the route I would go. And I know that the Pinnacle wasn't as successful as they could have been. But that matchup would just be a blast.
Yeah, no, it absolutely would be. And like you said, to get the Usos back with Roman Reigns, or specifically Jimmy with Roman Reigns, and then for the MJF to get Wardlow back, it's like they're bringing back, everyone from the past, ready for this big war of titans between Roman Reigns and MJF. I would truly love that. You've sold me on that completely, Clark. But David, what about you? What is your wrestling dream match from this era?
Crikey, these questions get harder and harder. You go through the entire history, the entire world of wrestling. There are hundreds. I'm gonna look at this very specifically at what match would I most want to pay my money to see as my own, with my own tastes. And it comes down to 2 matches, and I'll mention the other one. They both feature the same wrestler because they both feature Walter or Gunther, who I believe is the best wrestler in the world. So the first match, which I cannot believe we never got, was Walter against Minoru Suzuki. At the time that they were both on doing the UK Indies. They were, Suzuki was Rev Pro champion, and they had the opportunities to do it, and they never did. I would pay all the money I have to watch them murder each other with chops. But my choice a little bit more personally for me, I would pay every penny I have to see Walter versus Orange Cassidy as a match, particularly this modern Orange Cassidy, because with the original Orange Cassidy, where the joke was he didn't try, I kind of said that I wasn't as keen on a Walter specifically match because I think it may have undermined Walter slightly. I just the pairing didn't fully work. Now with an Orange Cassidy that does try more, who still has those kind of lazy elements, but still has that kind of has lent more into the in-ring stuff. I just think a match between the two of them would be absolutely astonishingly good. Like I'm picturing all the spots in my head, and they are two of my favorite wrestlers on the planet, and I would like I said, I'd pay every penny I have to see Cassidy do low effort chops to Walter as Walter's face goes beetroot red before he murders Orange Cassidy with one of his own. I can just see that. I think it would be really, really funny and a really, really good technical wrestling match. And yeah, I'm gushing a little bit, but if there was any match with current wrestlers today that I would want to see, it's Orange Cassidy and Walter.
Well, what I really love about this question, right, and it was a great question submitted, is that everybody's got a bit of a different answer, and it's not like it's one of those questions where it shows everybody's different tastes, and I love that about it. I really, really do. A great question, and that is what Mailbag Monday is always about. I mean, we got one question here from Anthony asking us to answer a question. Here it is. He is asking what we realistically see as the timeline for the debut of Braun Breaker on the main roster. Do we think it'll be at SummerSlam or after SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or after Mania? I mean, what's next for him in NXT is currently the question, because he lost at Battleground. Could they call him up right away? Even though the draft has just happened, could they just, make him a mystery addition to the Money in the Bank ladder match and win it? And then maybe cash in at SummerSlam and beat Roman Reigns?
I don't think there's anything more for Breaker to do down in NXT. Now he did the heel turn, which was great. Went straight into that main event program with Carmelo and lost. And now if he stays longer, it's going to feel like he's kind of treading water. I would bring him up after Money in the Bank. I'd take him off TV for a bit, let him have a break because he's worked really hard, and I'd bring him up night after Money in the Bank. Just have him come out and spear somebody. I would not put him in the world. Do not put him in the world title picture straight away. Let him build.
Do it. Do the Rainmaker Shark. I'm joking. I agree with you.
I think you have him kill somebody, like, I don't know, have him murder Akira Tozawa or something, and just like build, not Goldberg squash him up, but kind of have him go with feuds, kind of Chad Gable stuff, and just build him. Not Baron Corbin, not Dolph Ziggler, but just have him build.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think going more at the Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin level, that's still a significant step up from, the Akira Tozawas who are considered jobbers. Dolph Ziggler, he's a good hand. I mean, Dolph Ziggler, they've already feuded. But I'd put him with, upper mid card guys and get him in those types of feuds because I really do think he could be the next top star of the company. Yeah. So I wouldn't aim too low with him. I'd send him right to the top of the mid card, but just a few, quite a few feuds or whatever. Maybe wait a year, then maybe next year Money in the Bank he really does win the briefcase and then cash it in on the world champion, and that could be certainly something that would excite me because Braun Breaker really is the future. But it's really hot here, guys, and we're getting to the end of the episode. Whew. It's boiling in the UK, and like I said before, we don't have AC here. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I've got a cold. Clark's got a cold. Coby's got a cold. Everybody's got a cold. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm sorry about my voice being all over the place. Hopefully by tomorrow it'll be a little bit better. And tomorrow we'll be talking tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw, and it's certainly looking to be an exciting edition of the show. If you're over on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps us out massively, especially those thumbs up. Please, guys, we've a ton in the comments today. Please leave those thumbs up. If you're over on Spotify, a 5-star follow. We'd love you guys forever. It means a lot to us. And we'll be back here tomorrow, an hour later, 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 1 p.m. Pacific for the Raw review. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Clark and David for joining me here today. It's been a banger of a show. and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.